All right, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for your subscriptions. Today is April the 14th, 2022. And if it's April the 14th, in the words of Jim Ross on AEW, of course, you know what that means. That means today is the birthday of Amy Loomis, as we know her in wrestling as Lita. And today I'm going to do my top 4 favorite matches from Lita that I think you would really enjoy and I think you should check out. Let's first start with the match that actually took place in the city that is my former hometown and where ironically Lita now resides. And this was a match that took place on an episode of Monday Night Raw on July the 31st, 2000, live from Atlanta, Georgia, where she now resides alongside with Ric Flair. And this was a tag team match, a mixed tag team match between Lita and The Rock versus Triple H and Trish Stratus. Now, before we go any further, let's just talk about the hilarious thing that took place earlier that night when Triple H was trying to show Trish Stratus a wrestling move or how to counter a chicken wing lock or something like that, and Stephanie McMahon walked in on them, and Trish Stratus was in a rather compromising position. That was the most hilarious thing I ever saw. It was hilarious. Can you imagine training another attractive female and your wife walks in and sees you looking like that? In the words of R-Truth, I don't even know if that's PG. But either way, Steph left the arena and it was Trish Stratus and Triple H teaming up against The Rock and Lita. And it was the main event of Raw. And even though Jim Ross did say that Trish and Lita were not at the same level as Rock and Triple H, they would grow to become that way. So this would be one of the only times I would have to disagree with Jim Ross. But nonetheless, it was an amazing tag match to main event Raw. We have the current rivals in Triple H and The Rock versus future legendary rivals in Trish Stratus and Lita. And the match ended with The Rock spine busting Trish Stratus, which is something people don't do anymore, which I can respect. And Rock tags Lita in. Lita goes for the moonsault. 1, 2, 3. Lita was the one to actually get the pinfall for that match, which is why that match is on this list for tonight. This next match at number 3 took place earlier this year, and that was a match between Lita and Becky Lynch. And I'm going to tell you, that match did not disappoint at all. Even though, ironically, The Rock and Lita had connections in early 2000s, it was ironically that move that would help put Lita down, if my memory serves me correctly. But I did cover this match, and I will, and if you want to see it, I have gone into deeper intel, or should I say deeper information covering that match. This match between Lita and Becky Lynch, Big Time Bex, took place earlier this year in February at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. And I got to say, I know the ladies need a lot of cold water because as modesty rules have it, they have to cover up there. And fun fact, Trish Stratus had her legs exposed in 2000 when she wrestled, but later on covered her legs. And even Trish Stratus said, I want you to look at my gift and not my body. I like that. I respect that. But let's get into this match. Becky Lynch versus Lita in 2022, earlier this year. Great match. There was a moment where I thought Lita was actually going to get the job done. There was a moment where it almost seemed like she was going to win, especially when she went for that moonsault and pinned Becky, but it was a 2 count. However, unfortunately for Lita, she did not win the match, but she put on a great show. At number 2 is another match that took place in 2000. As you saw earlier, I said that one of my favorites in the countdown was when Lita teamed with The Rock in 2000 to face off against Triple H and Trish Stratus. But over a month later, it would be Lita versus Stephanie McMahon on an episode of Raw in August the 21st, 2000. This was a match where The Rock would be the special guest referee, and Kurt Angle, who obviously was having a somewhat of affair with Stephanie at the time, team stood by her side alongside her husband Triple H, making the whole thing the wild card. But either way, despite all of that, and the wild card things happening between Triple H and Kurt Angle, it was Lita that would get the moonsault to win her first women's championship. And yes, she had a little help from The Rock, who was the special ref, because Stephanie tried to hit The Rock with the championship belt and it didn't fly. So, nonetheless, Lita gets the pinfall. And while this would be Lita's first time, one of Lita's first times main eventing Raw, this next one at number 1 is extra special. Again, at number 2, we got the left Lita versus Stephanie McMahon. But what's number 1? Let's get to that. At number 1, of course, you can't talk about great Lita matches without mentioning Lita versus Trish Stratus on Monday Night Raw in December 6, 2004. This match was historic for so many reasons. Now, while Lita did main event Raw in 2000, facing off against Lita, there were a couple of wild cards. You had The Rock as a special guest referee. You had Triple H and Kurt Angle being the wild cards and everything. So while technically it was a women's match, the reason why this match was so important between Trish and Lita was because, for one, it was all about the women main eventing Raw. No wild cards, none of that. Just the complete focus on the females. And this match did not disappoint. There was a particular moment where I thought Lita was going to split her rib in half when she went for that running dive from the middle rope onto Trish Stratus and folding herself. Thankfully, she didn't crack this up when she fell. Her chest, I'm speaking of. But either way, nonetheless, it was the first time that Raw focused completely on the female wrestlers. Trish Stratus and Lita stole the house. And this would also be the night that Lita herself won the women's championship, defeating her longtime rival, now best friend, Lita. So, that's my list for right now, ladies and gentlemen. What was your favorite all-time Lita match? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and that's all the time I got for you today. I'll see you tomorrow for SmackDown.